Hello everyone and welcome to Tinderlots Gaming, and welcome to episode 2 of my Edge of the Earth campaign for Arkham Horror, the living card game. Really enjoying this campaign so far. I've only played one scenario, but really enjoying it. We're moving on to scenario 2, or it's basically an extension of Ice and Death. We'll come to that in a second. But I hope you're enjoying this series. I've really enjoyed putting it together, and looking forward to playing more and hopefully getting through as far as the campaign as I possibly can. Go to the decks in a second, but just have a look and see where we are at the moment. So, as I said, we've played the first part of Ice and Death. The game allows, the campaign now allows sort of save points, which is really cool. As I've said before, for those, I've got sort of preview of the campaign and the investigators, but this campaign is the first of a new wave that Fantasy Fight are putting out, where you get the whole campaign in one game, so it's really cool, and it allows you to do things like we're doing now, but I'm going to come on to that in a second. So we're still on Ice and Death. Let's go across to the board and see where we're at. So I've had a little bit of a tidy up here. After the last scenario, left everything out and followed the instructions. We've upgraded our decks. We are currently playing with Monterey Jack and Daniela Reyes. I'll come on to the additional bits now, but we've spent some XP. Monterey's got a few additional cards. Hiking Boots, for example, has gone in there. With Daniela, I've gone all in on Sledgehammer, the upgraded version. So she's going to be able to smack stuff fairly hard. So yeah, we'll get to that. So what we're going to do now, we'll go back to the main scene and we can see where we're at. I'm going to read from the campaign book, which is this book here. So it says, Ice and Death Part 2. Your team scrambles in preparation to search for those who went missing in the night. You hate the idea of venturing back out into the freezing cold so soon after taking refuge, but you have no choice if you are to find your companions. First thing we've got to do is add a frost token to the bag. So I've got that out ready. Frost token. They go in. Lovely chaos bag. I think we've got 3 in there now. So that's that bag ready to go. And then we go read through this. Read each passage below that corresponds to the characters who are not missing. Well, the person that's missing at the moment is James Cookie Frederick. So let's read these through. So it says, if Dr. Amy Kensler is alive and not missing, which she is, such says, this is a complete mess, Dr. Kensler says with an exasperated sharpness to her voice. Where in the hell could they have gone? And how is it that none of us have noticed? You reach out to assure her, but she's already gathering her things, getting ready to lead the search. If Dr. Amy Kensler is chosen to accompany an investigator this game, she enters play with one additional secret, which we have. I have actually chosen Dr. Kensler to accompany Daniela so that she can be a bit better at investigating, because there's going to be times when they're going to be on their own. So actually she comes in with 3 secrets, but actually she gets 4. So let's put those on there now. 2, 3 as normal, and then the additional 4th one. That's nice. That's good. In addition, if Dr. Marla Sinner is missing, but she's not, so we'll move on. If Professor William Dyer is alive and not missing, read it. So I'll read this. This is Professor Lake's team all over again, Dyer grumbles. When we first lost contact with them, we assumed it was the weather. But his gaze cold and dead meets yours. We know better now, don't we? At least I thought we did. If Professor William Dyer is chosen to accompany, no he's not, so we'll move on. If Avery Claypool is alive but not missing, that's correct, so we'll read this bit. Claypool takes inventory of your remaining supplies, shaking his head as he counts. Nothing's missing, he confesses in disbelief. They took nothing with them. Nobody saw them leave, and there's no evidence that they were taken. It makes no sense. You ask Claypool how long one could survive without supplies. In this weather, and with those things out there, his knowing eyes flee from yours, they won't survive the night. If Avery Claypole is chosen as an investigator, which she is not, and then the next bit is if James Cookie Fredericks is alive and not missing, which he is alive but he is missing, so I won't read this. Okay. Investigator setup. Each investigator starts base starting resources is equal to the shelter value of their camp instead of 5. Nice. So we actually are sheltered at the Crystalline Cavern at the moment, and that's got a shelter of 8. So each of our players starts with 8 resources, which is awesome. Each investigator must choose one available member of the expedition team who is not marked off or marked missing in action. So James Cookie Fredericks is missing, and unfortunately Danforth died in the crash. So everybody else is available. So Danforth is dead and James is missing. I've decided, as I've said, to take Dr. Amy Kinsley with Daniela. And I've taken, this time I'm taking Roald Ellsworth. He starts with 5 supplies, so let's give him his supplies. Let's just use those good old LCG tokens we're using. He comes in with 5 supplies. And what he allows, what he's going to allow Monterey to do is to use a supply, exhaust him, and then I can choose a treachery attached to a location, and we can trigger that text box as if it was blank until the end of the turn. I noticed in the last scenario there's a lot of stuff here that attaches to scenarios, so I'm hoping that will pay some dividends for us. So we've done that. So scenario setup, so we're continuing straight on from part 1. Gather all cards from the Lost in the Night and Left Behind encounter sets, which I've done. Those sets are indicated by the following icons, which you can read on the campaign book. We've taken out of play the Crash and Creatures in the Ice. We've removed those as instructed. We've built the agenda decks and the act decks from agendas 4 to 6 and act using Act 2. So let's have a look at those now. So Act 2, the Lost Expedition. It states you set out to search for the missing team members, hopefully trying to find them before daybreak. As a free action, investigators at your location may spend 1 clue or 2 clues, because we've got 2 investigators. Draw the encounter card beneath your location. So 2 clues, draw the encounter card beneath your location. Okay. And as an action, if we're at the camp, we can resign, you turn in for the night. Objective, find as many missing expedition members as you can by adding them to the victory display, then head back to the camp before daybreak. If each undefeated investigator has resigned, advanced. Okay, so I can see what we're doing here. We're going to be looking for the team member, so that's that. And then the first act starts from agenda 4A. And that states, that's a 5 doom. Several of your party have mysteriously vanished in the night without a sign of any struggle. You can only assume they're left of their own accord. But why? 5 doom on it. Okay, so that's our clock ticking. That's that bit done. Put each remaining set aside uncharted location into play, which I've done up here. We have the icy waste, which we never got to. Put a doom on it just to make sure, and icebreaker landing. They're both now in play, but they obviously have not been explored, so they're on their normal side. That's that done. Put clues on each of the remaining revealed locations, which I've done. This is where we've been, so all the clues are on there. We've got broad snowdrifts at 4 clues, frozen shores at 2, crystalline caverns at 6, treacherous path at 2, rocky camps at 4. Several members of the expedition go missing in the night. Find each possessed enemy from the Lost in Night encounter set whose title matches the expedition team members marked missing in action. So that's Frederick there. We've got him. Frederick's cookie. So set each of these enemies aside face down. And let's just turn them over. Find the story cards, which are these things here. Show them because they're obviously spoilers, but they're all there. Shuffle them one at a time. It says find the story cards, which I've done, and shuffle them. Okay, shuffle. One at a time, add one of those cards face down to the previously set aside enemies until there's a total of exactly 9 enemy and story cards set away. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I think I'm doing that right, so let's give them a shuffle. Let's give those a shuffle. Camera so you can see. Oh God! Trying to shuffle around some tripods and stuff like that. Right, so there we go. There's that. Shuffle those 9. So there is 9. So let's just make sure there's 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Place one face down beneath each of the 9 uncharted locations in play. Okay, so let's look for some uncharted. So broad snowdrifts is uncharted. Snow graves is uncharted. Remnants of Lake Camp is uncharted. Oh, just move those out of the way. Crystalline Cavern is uncharted. Icy Wastes is uncharted. Icebreaker Landing is uncharted. Rocky Camps is uncharted. Rocky Crags is uncharted. Frigid Caves is uncharted. And then finally Barrier Camp is uncharted. Okay, I think I can see where this is going now. We've got to try and find our members. Or got to find Cookie, so he'll be there somewhere. Blimey, this is a bit of a setup. It's stretched my skills of getting everything fitting in on the camera. There we go, that's fun. Each investigator begins play at the camp, which is where we are, Crystalline Caverns. Shuffle the remainder of the previously gathered encounter cards into the encounter deck, and you're now ready to begin. So we've got our encounter deck over here. Again, we'll just give that a shuffle on camera. I've already shuffled it, but oh, for goodness sake. Ugh. Give it That is all cut. We'll put that to one side so we can show those as we pick them. You are now ready to begin play. Okay, so we can put that down now. We can finish that. First things first, we need to draw our starting hands. So let's go with Monterey first of all. We're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're going to get magnifying glass, okay. Ethereal slip, lucky cigarette case. Oh, we've got our weakness, so don't draw another one. Hiking boots, nice to keep. That's one of the extensions, and backstep. Okay, so I think out of all of those, I'm going to ditch all three of them. I'm going to keep magnifying glass, and I'm going to keep hiking boots. And then I'm going to draw another 3. So we're going to get Eon chart, which is an upgrade. Got 3 secrets. During your turn, exhaust Eon chart and spend 1 secret. Choose and take one of the following actions: move, evade, or investigate. Nice. We're going to go through the second one. We've got slip away. And then finally, we've got field work. Nice. Okay, so we'll take those 5. We'll put those back into the deck and give it a shuffle. That's Monterey's starting hands. That there, so now, and then just drop them. Place there. Move that across a little bit so you can see it. Move those there like that. And Daniela, she's going to draw her 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. She's going to get mob goons straight away. Draw another one. So she's got let me handle this. Mechanic's wrench, might well keep. Guard dog. Survival knife, 2 survival knives, so the survival knife can go. Now, which one do we want to keep? I'm tempted to ditch all of them to see if we can get into a sledgehammer. Could be a bad move. What else do we get there? Oh, let me handle this. I'm going to be cautious. I'm going to keep survival knife and I'm going to keep guard dog. We get rid of the other survival knife, mechanic's wrench, and let me handle this. Draw another 3. So we're going to get evidence. We're going to get scene of the crime. That's cool. And we're going to get vicious blow. All right. Not too bad. Not the greatest. We're looking for a sledgehammer there. So that's Daniela's starting hand. We'll put those back in. Give them a shuffle. There we go. So we've got our starting hands. So first round we don't do a mythos phase, so we're going to go straight into the investigation phase. Okay, we'll start off. Lead investigator is going to be Monterey. This game, Monterey. So let's start off with Monterey. Bit of a setup first turn, obviously. Got loads of resources to spend. So first of all, let's have a quick look. Well, let's pay one action. Let's put a magnifying glass into play. Always helpful for Monterey. Second action, pay two. Bring in his hiking boots. That's limits footwear. Gets +1 agility, so it's now agility 6. And I can tap it after the last clue is discovered from your location. Exhaust hiking boots. Move to a connecting location with at least one clue, or to a connecting unrevealed location. And that was 1 XP that he spent in sort of the sort of mid part when we finished last session. Third action, pay 2 to bring in Eon Chart. 2 comes in with 3 secrets on it. Again, using the lovely LCG tokens, not sponsored by LCG, but they're great, you can see them really well. So it comes in with 3 secrets. And do we want to have a go at investigating? He will be 4, this is quite high, isn't it? It's 5, I think, crystalline caverns is 5. No, not at the moment. I think I'm going to leave him there. So that's it for Monterey. Then we're going to go on to Daniela, who, first of all, is going to pay 1 action and 3. To bring in a guard dog. Oh, actually, no. Let's back that for a second. Take 1 back. 3 for that. I'll pay 2 to play Scene of the Crime. Play only as your first action. Discover 1 clue at your location, 2 clues instead if there's an enemy at your location. It doesn't provoke attacks of opportunity. So we're going to start the ball rolling by getting a clue off the cabin, which is cool because we need 2 to have a look at the one underneath it. That was her first action. Second action, she'll pay 3. 1, 2, 3. To bring in guard dog. And third action, bit of a setup. Pay 2 to bring in the survival knife. Okay. So that's it for their turn. We don't get to activate Monterey's special ability because he stayed where he was and Daniela hasn't had any chance to hit anything. So we move on now to the enemy phase. There are no enemies in play as it currently stands. So that's the enemy phase, and then we move into the upkeep phase. So we reset all of our actions. Set all of our actions. We ready any exhausted cards. We've got no cards to ready. We draw a card and gain a resource. So do the resource first quickly. Monterey on Daniela. Monterey is going to draw the lucky cigarette case. After you succeed by 2 or more, exhaust the case, draw a card. Nice. Daniela is going to take the initiative. Commit only to a skill test you are performing. This got 3 wild cards, wild symbols on it, and you lose a wild symbol for each action that's been completed by any investigator. So that's, you know, Daniela needs to be going first, and it needs to be her first action to get the full benefit of that one. Check our hand size, but we know we're miles away from our hand size, so that's it for the upkeep phase. We move into the Mythos phase. First thing we do is we put a Doom on the agenda. 1 of 5. Put that on the other side. Yeah. Stop it from being a bit confusing. We advance the Doom threshold if it's reached, which it's not, and then we draw a card from the good old encounter deck. So we'll start, and I'll try and keep this in the same order as we go. We'll go with Monterey first because he is the lead investigator and he's going to draw. An Antarctic Wind. Revelation. Attached to the nearest location without a copy of Antarctic Wind attached. Investigators at attached locations cannot play cards or draw cards from their deck. At the end of the round, discard Antarctic Wind. So that's going to go. It's going to go onto the cabin. Oh, this is going to get a bit messy. Let's move those to there for a minute, and we'll put Antarctic Winds there. And then we're going to draw one for Daniela, and she is going to get Dark Aurora. Test will 3. Each frost token revealed during this test, take 1 horror. If you fail, take 2 horror. So her will is 4. She got anything that she can chuck in? Take the initiative. Four versus 3. Do I want to waste to take the initiative? Because I could use this and at its full potential of 3, because there's no actions been taken by the investigators this phase. I'm going to risk it for a biscuit. I'm going 4 versus 3. And we get -2. So 4 versus 3 takes us down to 2 versus 3, so we lose 1. If you fail, take 2 horror. Should have played it, but never mind. Okay, so she goes down. Oops, sorry. She goes down to 4. Okay. Mental note. Maybe not do on. So that's that. That's the Mythos phase done. We move on to the investigation phase. So our Antarctic Wind, we can't play cards or draw cards from our deck. Five versus 5. Okay, so I'm going to start off with Monterey, who for his first action is going to do an investigate. So Shroud of 5, and he's currently 5 with the magnifying glass. We'll chuck in a slip away, additional book. So we're going 6 versus 5. 6 versus 5. I'm just thinking, actually, do we want to do a bit of field work shenanigans? No, because I can't play cards in my hand. Oh. Cannot play cards or draw cards from their deck. Oh, does that mean we can't use flip away? Does that mean we can't use slip away? Is committing a card to a skill test playing a card? Bear with me, I'm just going to have to check that. Just done a bit of checking on the old interwebs. General consensus seems to be that when you commit a card to a test, you're not actually playing it, you're discarding it to gain the icon. So I'm going to play it that way. If I am wrong, I apologise, but that seems to be on the threads that I looked at. The general consensus, like I say, is that you're not actually playing the card, you're discarding the card to gain the icon. So we will take that. So we go for 4, 5, 6, 6 versus 5. See what the old Nicholas bag has to say about it. 6 versus 5, and we get cultist symbol, which is -2. If you fail, shuffle the top card of the Tekaliki deck into your deck without looking at it. If you cannot, take 1 horror. So, okay, let's just put that back in the bag. Pick up, but this is the Tekaliki deck. Again, let's just give it a good old shuffle. The cat weasel cut there, and then we'll take this one and we'll put it there, and then we'll shuffle Monterey's deck in a second. We'll do that now. Just do it the other way so we can see what we're doing. Well, I think we can certainly see where this scenario is going. So that's in the deck. We'll put his deck back there, like that. Okay, so that was Monterey's first action, which was a failure. Can't play cards, got enough resources. Second action, we'll draw a card. I think we can do that. Oh no, we can't draw a card from our deck because of Antarctic Wind. So we can't draw or play cards. Okay. Do we go 5v5? Do we go 5v5? Antarctic Wind is a right pain. Actually, we got rolled, didn't we? Oh yeah, you plonker MB. So, it's early in the day, that's my excuse. So let's have a look here. So let's we'll set out for next go, I think. So let's spend a resource or roll, tap him to ignore treachery card. Antarctic Wind is a treachery card, so we'll tap rolled. We'll spend an action, spend 2 resources to put field work into play. I'm setting myself up for the next turn, hopefully. Just taking a bit of time really, but there we go. That was his second action. Actually, no. I'll pay 2 for his third action. To bring in Lucky Cigarette Case. Okay. So that's it for Monterey. Sorry, I just adjusted the camera slightly. It's getting a bit busy at the moment and trying to fit everything in, but I wanted to see so you could see the Lucky Cigarette Case. Don't ignore this bit here, this is part of the scenario, but try to get it so you can see everything on the board. So that was it for Monterey. So we're going to move on to Daniela's phase. What's she got? So Antarctic Wind comes back into play because for roll it says until the end of this turn. I'm assuming the turn is Monterey's turn. So I would play it as Antarctic Wind comes back into play. It's only him that's treating it as blank. That's the way I'd read it. Yeah, because it says at the end of your turn on his card, the turn is his turn. So, okay. Okay. Well, first action. First action for Daniela is going to attack Dr. Kinsler. Use a resource or a secret. And I can investigate with a base skill of 5. If you succeed, look at the top of any investigator's deck. For the encounter take, you may discard any card. Oh no, okay. Didn't read that properly, did I? I thought it was just a normal investigate. There you go, teach me for reading the cards, so that's not going to do that. Antarctic Wind has really done us over this turn. Daniela needs to be looking for these. Can't draw cards, can't play cards. Oh. So she hasn't used an action yet. So first action, she's going to move. She's going to go to the snowdrifts. Sorry. Just move down here to the snowdrifts, which is connected. And this has got a shrouded one. So a second action. She's going to investigate and she's going to commit. Oops. She's going to commit evidence to it. Not for its additional effects, but we're going to play for the 2 books. So we're going 3 against 1. 3 against 1. And we get. God, might. -3. Each point you fail by, discard the top card of your deck. Draw each weakness discarded by this effect. So she was 3 versus 1. So it takes it down to 1 versus 0. So she's going to discard the top card of her deck, which is a Mob Goons. Draw each weakness that is discarded by this effect. So Mob Goons comes into play into her threat area. Mob Goons have turned up at the Antarctic again, hiding away in a sort of in one of the snowmobiles maybe, or the old plane. So that comes into play, so that was her second action. Oh man, that Mythos bag is kicking our butt today. It's kicking our butt. So her third action is obviously going to have to be to fight. So it's got 3 health. Let's point the survival knife. So last action, she's going to fight with the survival knife. So she is currently 6 versus 3. Do I need to do a vicious blow with it? I don't think I'm going to need to, because whichever way I do it, it's going to attack me, and I can use the survival knife. Yeah, so let's just go straight forward. 6 versus 3. Come on, Mythos bag. 6 versus 3. We get a +1. Excellent. 6 versus 3 +1. We do a damage to it. So, Mob Goons gets a hit on it, and that is it for Daniela's turn. That's it for the investigation phase. The enemy phase. So enemies with a hunter keyword move towards us. Don't need to do that because it's already there. Each engaged enemy attacks if able. So it does attack Daniela. So we're going to take 1. Well, Guard Dog's going to take 1 health. And Daniela's going to take the horror, which is really annoying. So 3. She's down to 3. So that's the Mob Goon having hit us. After an enemy attacks, deals damage to you, survival knife. Exhaust survival knife, which we'll do. We're going to do +2 fight and +1 damage. So we are currently 7 versus 3, which is pretty decent odds. So see what we get. 7 versus 3, and we're going to get a -1, which does 2 wounds to the Mob Goon. 2 wounds, which is enough to kill it. That's 3 wounds, so that's Mob Goon dealt with. The enemy phase. So that's it for the enemy phase. We then move on to the upkeep phase. Reset our actions. Put those back. We ready any exhausted cards, so roll is going to be readied. And survival knife is going to be readied. resource. So resource for Monterey, resource for Daniela. Monterey is going to get scout ahead. Move up to 3 times. Enemies do not engage you during this movement. Monterey done. And Daniela is going to take the initiative. So she really wants to go first. Okay, so that was it for the upkeep phase. Hand size is fine. We move on to the mythos phase. And we're going to start off with one. Oh, sorry, hang on a second. We move and put a doom on the agenda. Takes it to 2. It's 2 of 5, so we're fine. We check that. We then draw a card. So Monterey is going to go first. Oh, Antarctic Wind. Sorry, let's clear up some stuff here. Antarctic Wind goes. Nothing else in play that I need to worry about. So, right, we get to Monterey's drawing in a counter card, and he's going to get Ice Shaft. Test 3 agility. For each frost token revealed during this test, take 1 damage. If you fail, take 2 damage. Right, well, agility he's pretty decent at. He's got his hiking boots, which takes him to agility 6. 6 versus 3. Scout ahead's got 2 agility on it. No, 6 versus 3, I'm going to go with that. 6 versus 3, and we get 6 versus 3. Well, we still pass because the stone tablet symbol is -3. So 6 versus 3 is 3 versus 3, so we do pass. And then we're going to go to Daniela, who's going to get an Antarctic Wind. Oh, lovely. Antarctic Wind, and he's going to attach to her location because it hasn't got an Antarctic Wind on it. That Antarctic Wind is a white pain. Okay, so that's it for the mythos phase. We're then going to the investigation phase. Who do we start with? Well, the cavern, we could come back to the cavern. It's just 5 shroud is really high. 5 shroud is really high. But we could have a crack with Daniela using takes the initiative. So Daniela is going to go first. She's going to do an investigate action at the broad snowdrifts. It's 1 versus 1 at the moment because her intellect is 1. But she will take the initiative because it's her first action. So she's not completed, so we're going to 4 versus 1. 4 versus 1. She gets frost token, which is -1, and then we draw another token, and we're going to get that is X. X is half of the shelter location. Shelter 4, so 2, so that's 3. 3 in total. So she was 4 versus 1. So it's 1 versus 1. So she succeeds just. So that's 2 from that. As the shelter value was 2. 4, rounding down to 2. That's 2, and that's -1. So -3. 4 versus 1 is. So she gets that clue. Now she has got 2 clues on her. So it says under the Act, investigators at your location spend 1 clue per investigator as a group. Draw the encounter beneath your location. So let's do that. So she'll spend her 2 clues to pull this card. Now, what is it? What is it? Let's turn it over and see what we get. Okay, we've got Dissected in Explorer. You follow a set of tracks into a small cavern carved into a glacial wall, and your stomach lurches at the sight before you. One of your missing team members lies in a crumpled heap at the end of the hollow, his clothing torn open. A clean vertical incision has bisected his torso from his sternum to his belly, and his entrails have been carefully removed. You struggle not to retch. Who could possibly have done such a thing? Search your deck for a copy of the Taliki and place it at the bottom of the Taliki deck without resolving it. Shuffle your deck. Add this story card to your victory display. Search your deck for a copy of Taliki. Place it at the bottom of the Taliki deck without resolving it. She hasn't got a Taliki. I'll just double check. I will reshuffle these afterwards. No. Right, so let's give those a shuffle. Sorry if I'm not supposed to do this, but I knew one of them had, and I'm sure it was Monterey, but I just wanted to be double sure. So that's shuffled. So that goes into the victory display of a victory of 0. But we've cleared that. We've cleared that one. So that was her first action. It's going to be a bit of a waste, but I'm going to try it anyway. I'm going to play take the. I'm going to spend my second action to play take the initiative, which is going to give me 2 wildcard symbols instead of 3. So I'm now going 3 versus 1. Now going 3 versus 1. Come on, Mythos deck. You can do it. 3 versus 1. -4. -4. Mythos deck. It's going to be burnt. It's going to be burnt. So that was her second action. Her third action. Can't play cards. Can't draw cards. Gang of resource. I'm not going to risk anything else. I'm going to gain a resource for Daniela. So that's Daniela done. Right. Let's move across to Monterey. He is going to move for 1 action. Sorry. He's going to move for 1 action. He's going to join Daniela at the broad snowdrifts. He'll tap field work. Get +2 skill value to the next test I perform in this phase. So that was his first action. React to that. Second action is going to be to investigate the snowdrifts. He is going to then investigate the snowdrifts. He is 4, 5 with the magnifying glass. So he's going to go 4 versus 5. 5 versus 1, sorry. We're going to get -2. The snowdrifts is shelter 2. Shelter 4, so that's half. So that's 2. So we succeed. So he gets a clue. That was his first action. God, sorry, that was his second action. Oh no, he was more than that. He was like 7 because we got field work in play. So anyway, we've still passed. For his third action, he's going to investigate again, and this is 5 versus 1. Big 5 versus 1, and we're going to go there. Oh my god! 5 versus 1, we still pass. -3. We go down to 2 versus 1, so we still pass, and he gets another clue. He gets another clue. I'm not going to do the frost token. Sorry, on snowdrifts, there's a when you successfully investigate, you can add a frost token and you can discover 3 additional clues. I'm not going to do that. So that was his third action. We could move back. We could move back to crystalline caverns to see what's there. I think I'm prepared to do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tap for exhaust on chart, do a move action back to the crystalline caverns. And then next turn he's there ready to spend his 2 clues to draw that encounter card. So that's it for the investigation phase. We move on to the enemy phase. Could have done lucky cigarette case, but my fault for missing it. As most players will know that do play solo, there's a lot of stuff you can miss when you're running two characters. Anyway, so enemy phase, no enemies in play, so we're all good. We then move on to the upkeep phase. Yeah, I don't know if I played that right. Antarctic Wind. I don't know. I might have made a boo-boo there because you can't draw cards. I drew cards, both of them at the end. My mistake. My mistake. Sorry. So Monterey can draw a card. Well, actually, let's just play this in order. Reset actions. Reset actions. Ready and exhausted cards. We're going to ready field work, and we're going to ready Eon cut charts. We're going to gain a resource and draw a card. So Monterey gains a resource. Daniela drawn to resource. I won't draw a card for Daniela because she's out now. Target wins. But I will draw a card for Monterey, who gets hiking boots, which is an agility symbol. That's good. Then we go on to the upkeep phase. Oh, sorry, we are in the upkeep phase. We've done that. The end of the round, Antarctic Wind goes. Then we move on to the Mythos phase. We put the Doom on the agenda. Takes us to 3. We check. We're 3 of 5, so we're good. Then we go on to drawing from the encounter deck, and we'll start off, as we always do, with Monterey, who's going to draw an ice shaft. Test 3 agility for each, so his agility, that's cool. So he is 3, agility 3, he is 5, 6 with the hiking boots, 6 versus 3. I'll make it 7 versus 3 by putting in hiking boot, putting in a hiking boots. Make it 7 versus 3. Seven versus 3. +1. Half and pluses in there. So he passes that one. And then Daniela is going to get whiteout. Attached to your location. Each investigator at that location gets -1 across their skills. Okay. Discard at the end of the turn. So whiteout goes against board. So just I can take. I'll take that one. I'll take that one. So we now go on to the investigation phase. Already done that. So Monterey's going to go first. And the first thing he's going to do is he's going to spend his 2 clues through the act. As a free action, investigators at your location spend 1 clue or 2 clues, as it's 2 investigators, draw the encounter card. So he will spend his 2 clues that he had. That's in there. And then we're going to draw the encounter card off there and see what we get. That one we're going to get. Okay, it's not cookie. There we go. Evil Within. You are fleeing from a creature made of kaleidoscopic ooze. When you suddenly freeze in place, a web of cracks reaching out across the ice beneath your boots. Your breath catches in your throat. Another step could spell your doom or save your life. Behind you, the entity gains on you, reaching out with arms that are not quite solid or liquid. Feeling lucky, you decide to roll the dice, striking the ground behind you and fleeing to the side. Just as you hoped, the ice is thin enough to splinter open and the creature tumbles down through the crack into the icy depths. You breathe a sigh of relief, thankful that you did not share a similar fate. Discard an Eidolon enemy that does not have the elite trait in play. Well, we've got no Eidolon enemies in play, but we do add that to our victory display, a victory of 0. So we've cleared out we've cleared out the 2 areas which we've been in, which is good. Which we've been in. So that was his first, well, it wasn't an action, it's a free action. So we need to come down here to clear this corner out. difficult getting clues off the crystalline cavern though. It's 5. 5 is very, very high. 1 clue left at Broad Snow. Just if I could get 1 clue off crystalline cavern, and then the 1 remaining clue of broad snowdrifts, we can then move into snow graves and clear that one. Okay, so I'm going to do something a little bit silly maybe, but I think it is going to be my best shot at it. Trace not going to be finishing 1, 2 and then 3 to investigate. So do that. That's a shot. Seven versus 5. What I'm thinking about doing is basically moving twice, once to there, once back again, tapping field work to take me to 7 versus 5. And then try and nab a clue of crystalline cavern. So we'll do that. We'll spend basically 2 actions. First action will be to move to broad snowdrifts. Second action will be to move back to the crystalline cavern. And at that point, we'll tap field work to give me +2 to the next skill test. For his third action, he'll investigate. Well, actually, no. No. We'll tap also Eon chart to do the investigate, which leaves me 1 action. We'll tap Eon chart to do the investigate. So we're at 4 naturally, 5 with a magnifying glass, 7 with field work, and it's 5. 7 versus 5. Come on, 7 versus 5. -3. Takes me to 4 versus 5, so I fail. Third action will be to move back to broad snowdrifts. But that then does allow me to kick in his special ability. At the end of your turn, if you start this round 1 location from your current location, either gain a resource or draw a card. He's 1 location away, so I'm going to draw a card, and he gets scout ahead. So we've got 2 scout heads in play at the moment. What's Daniela going to do? She needs to try and dig in for some stuff. The only thing she's got on her hand at the moment is a vicious blow. Oh, sorry, it's the investigation phase. So first thing she's going to do, first action, she's going to draw a card. She's going to get Overpower. Second action, draw a card. Bandolier. Excellent. So a third action, it's going to spend 2. Put Bandolier into play, which hopefully means if we do get the sledgehammer, we can still have the survival knife out as well. Which will be good. Which will be very good. Or if we get another weapon. Okay. Not overly successful that turn. So we then move on to the enemy phase. There are no enemies in play. We then move on to the upkeep phase. So ready any exhausted cards, so Eon Chart is going to ready as its field work. Nothing else to ready. We're getting a resource. So get one resource there, and we get one resource Daniela. We draw a card. So Monterey's going to get another lucky cigarette case. Let me discard lucky cigarette case because Eon Chart was in play. My apologies, didn't use it, so that can go. My fault. If you spotted that earlier, well done. Eon Chart, the actual chart is actually a necklace, but there you go. There we go, so that's gone. We've got another one we can use. And then second, and then Daniela's going to draw and let me handle this. Play after another investigator draws a non-permanent encounter card after resolve, but before resolving it, you consider to draw it. So okay, that's handy to know. That's it for the upkeep phase. We then move on to the Mythos phase. Mythos phase, we'll start off as we always do with Monterey. Well, actually, first things first, we'll do the Doom. 4 at 5. So we check, we're not at 5, so we're all good. Then we draw a card. Monterey is going to get white outgoes as well, so go. Monterey gets Hierophobia. Revelation text where intellect X, where X is the location's shroud value. So broad snowdrifts is a shroud value of shelter value of 4. If you fail, you must decide. Take 1 horror for each point you fail by. Place 2 clues. Place 2 of your clues on that location. Add a frost token to the chaos bag. Ooh, I don't want to do any of those. So he is willpower. It's willpower. Oh, he's willpower 1. So, oh, that's a risk. I could play Let Me Handle This from Daniela. Fast play after another investigator draws a non-peril, which it's not, encounter card, but before resolving the card's effects. You have considered to have drawn the encounter card instead, and you get +2 to each of your skills whilst resolving that card's revelation effect. She is a willpower 4, so she goes to willpower 6 against shelter 4, but she'd take 1 horror if she failed it, or for each point she failed by. She's only got 3 sanity left. Place 2 clues on your location. She hasn't got any clues, so I couldn't do that one. The only thing that she could do would be to add another frost token to the chaos bag, which again I don't really want to do. But Monterey is willpower 1. He could go to willpower 2. He could go to willpower 2 with lucky cigarette case chucked in. No, I'm going to have to do it. I'll play Let Me Handle This for Daniela. So she is considered to have drawn the card. So it's 6. 6 versus 4. 6 versus 4, and she gets a -2. Excellent, so she passes. Ooh. Okay, so that was Monterey, so we'll then go to Daniela. She's going to draw a polar vortex attached to the location. When you end your turn at the attached location, each card you control with help takes 1 direct damage, including the investigator. At the end of your round, discard polar vortex. Okay, I don't really want to be in the broad snowdrifts at the end of the turn. That's it for the Mythos phase. We then go on to the investigation phase. Okay. I'm thinking. I need to get two. I want to get 2 clues from these 2 locations, really, and then head into Snowgraves. But then, as an additional cost to enter this location, you've got to spend 4 clues as a group. Ouch. I think we're better off heading up this way. I don't really want to leave this one down here, but I think we're going to have to go over here. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. We'll start off with Monterey, who's going to have a go at getting a large clue of broad snowdrifts. So yeah, so first action from Monterey. First action is to investigate broad snowdrifts. He is 5 versus 1. 5 versus 1. Five versus 1, and we get, hey, finally it's in there. +1, if you started this round 1 or more locations away from your current location, gain 1 resource or draw a card. Well, he doesn't. He hasn't. But he does. He does get the clue off of broad snowdrifts. Then he's going to tap hiking boots, which says after the last clue is discovered from your location, exhaust hiking boots, move to a connecting location with at least 1 clue, or to a connecting unrevealed location. So he's going to move to the frozen shores, to there. He will also then tap field work to get +2. He's moved for 3, he's tapped hiking boots, and he's tapped field work. And he'll, for his second action, he will try and investigate the frozen shores. So he's 2, and he is 5, he is 7. He's at 7. I'm gonna get. Oops. I just pulled that out of the Mythos bag. How'd that get in there? I'm gonna draw that one. Hey, -1, and we draw another token. Gonna get that one. Skull, half your shelter value. 2, so it's 1, so it's -2. He's at 7, so he wins. He wins, so -2. He's down to 5 versus 2, so he gets that clue. So he's got another 2 clues. We've got 2 clues in the bag now. So that was his second action. Third action, we'll try it again, but we'll go straight 5 versus 2. But his third action. 5 versus 2. Oops. 5 versus 2. Oh my. Same again, -1 and then -1. 5 versus 2 takes me down to 3 versus 2, so he gets that. He gets it. So he's got his 2 clues. He's got 3 clues now. 3 clues, which is awesome. That was his third action, but he is going to spend the remaining secret and just exhaust the on chart for a move action. He's going to go up to the crash site. Try and start to clear this side of the board. I'm going to need these clues here. 5 shrouded. Without playing Seeker, it's really difficult. If I could get Daniela in there with some enemies, awesome. Right, so that's it for Monterey. At the end of Monterey's turn, 1, 2. I draw, so it says at the end of your turn, if you started this round 1 location away from your current location, you would draw a card or gain a resource. If you start this round 2 or more locations away, do both instead. So he will get a resource and he will draw a card. Lone Wolf. Excellent. We'll play that. So that's his special ability done. Daniela. So we need to move out. She has got, I mean, she's set up to kill stuff. If anybody comes near her, she's got an overpower, she's got a vicious blow. So we're all good on that respect. We don't want to be staying at the same location. So does she move? She's going to move. Ooh. Actually, she's going to move 3 times. She's going to go 1, 2. That's right. She's there. 1, 2, 3 to the treacherous path. stay there. So that was pretty straightforward for Daniela. Just trying to keep up with Monterey, but Monterey now with Lone Wolf doesn't really want to be, well, once Lone Wolf comes into play, doesn't really want to be in the same location. Doesn't seem to be too many enemies in this encounter deck so far. Hoping there is going to be. That's saying some people who played Arkham Horror and saying, where's the enemies? Okay. Investigation phase done. We move on to the enemy phase. There are no enemies in play, so we stop that. Or don't do anything. We then move on to the upkeep phase. We reset all of our actions. We ready any exhausted cards. Eon chart's now got no charges on it, so we can replace that with Lucky Cigarette Case in a second. We gain a resource. And we draw a card. So Monterey's going to get Backstab, using his agility instead of his fight, does +2 damage, that's awesome. And then Daniela is going to get Sledgehammer. No, another overpower. Where's my Sledgehammers? I spent nearly 10 XP on Sledgehammers and they're not in there. Come on. Come on, deck. Okay. So we've done that. Check our hand size. Daniela's at 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for Monterey, so we're all good. That's the end of the round, so Polar Vortex goes. We then move into the Mythos phase. We place a Doom on the Doom, which takes us to 5. We check the Doom, which is at 5. So something nasty is going to happen now. Let's have a look. It says, tracks in the snow. As you journey through the glacial wilds, you stumble across a set of tracks in the snow leading further from the camp. You pause and investigate further. Were these tracks made by one of your missing team members or by something more monstrous? Choose a face-down encounter card beneath the location. Look at the other side of that card without revealing its text. Then return it face down beneath that location. Choose a face down. Choose a face-down encounter card beneath the location. Look at the other side of that card without resolving its in-play text, then return it face down to another location. Okay, so I think we're going to do this one here because that's where we're sort of heading towards, and this is going to be the first one that we come across. So let's see what's in here. Madness Inside. It says you can read. It says without resolving. So it says, to your relief, you come across one of your missing team members, but they are not themselves. Their eyes are glazed over, their expression dazed and lost and murky, slimy. Murky, slimy substance drips from their face and trickles into their eyes below. When you finally manage to get through to them, they wipe their strange inky miasma from their face. Choose a possessed enemy in play that does not have the elite trait. Take control of each doom on that enemy, flipping them to their clue sites. Discard the chosen enemy. Add the story card to your victory display. Well, so we know that's not Cookie. but we don't know what that. But we've got to go through this bit to get to here. So we know that's not cookie, but we need 2 clues per investigator to get into that one. Okay, but we can still go that way, still clear that side, because you can never know which one is. Quick start with the old caffeine. Okay, so that was it for that. We'll remove the doom here. We're on agenda 5A now. It says the chill of the night. Oops. Again, by doom. The low-hanging sun dimly illuminates the Antarctic night. Grey clouds cover the sky, threatening an icy storm. Again, 5 doom on that one. So that's the mythos phase done. Or that's not the mythos phase done, it's the agenda part of it done. We then move on to drawing our cards. We're going to get for Monterey as our lead investigator. Frenzied Explorer. 2 fight, 2 wounds, 2 agility, human, possessed. Frenzied Explorer enters play with 1 doom on it. Well, this is handy because of what we just read in that other one. When frenzied, so force. When Frenzied Explorer is defeated, move each doom on it to its location. After you successfully evade Frenzied Explorer by 2 or more, take control of 1 doom on Frenzied Explorer and flip it to its clue side. Then if there are no doom on it, on Frenzied Explorer, discard it. Okay. So it comes into play in Monterey's area with 1 doom on it. Evading him shouldn't be a problem. Seems fairly straightforward. So that was the first mythos pull, or encounter pull. Let's see what Daniela gets. Daniela is going to get Dark Aurora. Test agility 3. Each boss token revealed during this test, take 1 horror. If you fail, take 2 horror. Agility 3. Oh no, willpower 3. Willpower 3. She's willpower 4. Oh dear, she hasn't got anything to negate that, so we're going 3 versus 4. 3 versus 4. Shroud location is X, so 1. Can't be reduced, so it's 1. So I win. She's 4. It's 3 plus the 1, which is 4. So we're good. Yeah. Okay. Then move on to the investigation phase. So first things first. Monterey is going to have to deal with this Frenzied Explorer. Evaded 2. I'm currently 6. I've got to beat it by 2 or more. So I've got 2 scout heads in play. I'll pay 1, so we're going to do an evade. I'm 5 naturally, 6 with the hiking boots, 7, 8 with scout ahead. It's 2. And we get -3. 8 takes me down to 5, it's 2, so I win by 2 or more. I win by 3 actually. So it says, after you successfully evade Frenzied Explorer by 2 or more, take control of 1 doom on Frenzied Explorer and flip it to its clue side. So I'm going to take that doom off it, put a clue on me. If there is no doom on Frenzied Explorer, then discard it, so it's gone. That was fairly easy. When things happen easily like that, you think, really? Is it? So Monterey is building up a nice load of clues now. That's his first action. His second action is going to be to move to the treacherous path. He's now at treacherous path with Daniela. He will tap field work, give me +2. And for his third action, he will investigate the treacherous path. He's got a shroud value of 2. I'll take. So he is 4, 5 for magnifying glass, 6, 7 for field work. 7 versus 2. 7 versus 2. -3. We still pass. Gain 2. That's it for his third action. We remember his special ability because we've ended up more than 1 location away, so we get to draw a card or a resource. So I will draw a card. I don't need any resources at the minute, so let's draw a card, and he's going to get the Taliki, Treachery. So let's have a look and see what this does. The first one I've drawn of the game. Discard 1 card from random from your hand. Place Taliki at the bottom of the Taliki deck. Okay, so let's just do a quick shuffle around. That's the card we're going to lose. We're going to lose a scout ahead. The Taliki card gets put on the bottom. Yeah, it doesn't say shuffle, so it just gets put on the bottom of the deck. Okay, that was his third action. So we're alright, we're doing alright. We're doing alright. We've got 5 clues now with Monterey. What's Daniela gonna do? Well, I think we can do this. I think we can do this. And what I'm going to do is just talk through my thought points. She could spend 1 to move to the Rocky Crag, which is here. And then she could spend, because it says in the act, free action, investigators at your location spend one clue per investigator, so 2 clues as a group. Draw the encounter card. So although she hasn't got any clues on her, she's going to use 2 clues from Monterey. Oh, no. Sorry, no. Investigators at your location. So she can't do that. Forget that. Oh, I was being a bit gamey there. So what is she going to do? What is she going to do? Really, she can't do too much. Okay. She's just going to keep. She's going to keep the pace up. She's going to spend 1 action to move. 1 action to move. So she's going to go to the Rocky Crag. That was her first action. Second action, she's going to draw a card. Mechanics Wrench. So the Mechanics Wrench is what she got, and it reads as a free action, exhaust it, choose an enemy at your location, that enemy attacks you. As an action, fight using this ability. Use this ability only against an enemy that has attacked you since the end of the last turn. You get +2 attack and deal +1 damage. I don't think that's great. I don't really think that's a particularly great. I might be missing something. I mean, I know obviously she's got her dealing damage to avoid it, but I might be missing something. So she's got 4 cards in hand. I don't really want to play it because I'd rather wait for Sledgehammer to come out. I could play it, because once Sledgehammer comes out, I could just replace either of those with it. So yeah, let's do it. Let's pay 1 and spend 2. Let's put the Mechanics Wrench into play. That's what we've got so far. Okay, so that's it for the player turn, or the investigation phase, sorry. And then move on to the enemy phase. There aren't any enemies in play, so we move on to the upkeep phase. We get our actions back. We ready any exhausted cards. We draw a resource. We get a card. So Monterey is going to get Ethereal Slip. Choose a non-elite enemy at any revealed location. Swap places with that enemy. That's one of his XP cards. So once an enemy appears, we can just swap places with it, which is really good. And then Daniela is going to get... Yay! She is going to get Sledgehammer, the extended Uber version. This has got 1 action, fight. You get +1 fight and deal +1 damage. So that's the difference from the 0 XP, because it was -1 fight. So it's +1 fight, deal 1 damage. But for 3 actions, you get +5 fight and deal 5 damage. So she can, although she's going to use all of her actions, it's 1 test. You can go all in on it and kill stuff. So we know what's going to be happening next. So that was it for the upkeep phase. Check our hand sizes, sorry, 1, 2, 3, 4 for Daniela, and 4 for Monterey, which is all good. Move on to the Mythos phase. We put a Mythos, or we put a Doom on the agenda, 1 of 5. We check, we're all right, and then we go to drawing the cards. So Monterey is going to get Polar Mirage, attached to your nearest location that has with at least 1 clue on it. After you discover or take control of 1 or more clues at the attached location, discard each non-weakness hunt. Oh, after you discover or take control of 1 or more clues at an attached location, discard each non-weakness card in your hand. Oh my god, that is disgusting. That's going to go onto treacherous paths. A bit of jiggery pokery here. For a second. Go back down there like that. That back. And put that back. Don't really want to be discovering any clues at Treacherous Path. Glad it was there and not the other one. So that was it for Monterey, and then Daniela is going to get Test Agility 3. Each boss token revealed test take 1 damage. If you fail, take 2 damage. She's Agility 2. Okay. So Agility 2 versus 3, I can't do anything about it, but -2. So 5, so she goes to 0, so 3. So she's going to take 2 damage. She's going to take 2 damage. No, she's not. 1's going to go on to Amy. Oops. 1 is going to go on to Amy. That's not. Why don't I keep confusing? 1 is going to go on to Amy. And 1 is going to go on to Guard Dog. So that's it. The Mythos phase. We go on to the investigation phase. Another quick slurp of the coffee. It's getting cold. Right, what we're going to do is turn. Well, Monterey's going to move in, I think. Well, I've got some choices here. I've got some choices. We know what this card here is. We know this is not Cookie. So you could go move, move. We could go move, investigate, get 1 clue. Spend the 4 clues then to move again, because it needs this to go into the frigid cave. It's an additional cost. You need to spend 2 clues per investigator as a group. So he's got 5. He needs 6 to do that effectively. We don't really need to uncover this one, but we do need to uncover this one. Okay. Would have been nice to get the old hiking boots in play with Treacherous Path, but I'm not discarding all of those cards to do that. So we'll go with Monterey first of all, spend his first action to move into the rocky caves. He will tap fieldwork. For his second action, he will investigate. It's a shroud of 3, and he is currently 5, 6. 4, 5, 6, 7 for field work. So 7 against 3. 7 against 3. Seven against 3. Auto fail. Of course. Coffee. Oh dear, I love this game. I love this game. You can't beat it. You can't beat it. Well, that's it. That's coffee done. We're caffeined up now. Shall we go for his last action? Let's have just a quick look. Yeah, for his last action, he's going to go 5 against 3. Going to go 5 against 3. He gets -1. See what I mean? He boomed it up the previous game, or the previous turn, gets the auto fail, has a cheeky little go, 5 against 3 now, gets -1. Excellent. Okay, so that does set us up. Does give us a clue off there. We need to remember there's a surge on that one as well. So he's now got 6 tokens. He's now got 6 clues, which is enough to move in, spend the 4, turn that one over. But he's out of actions now. He is out of actions. Where's Leo when you need him? So we've got Daniela, who's getting a bit stuck, really. I don't feel like Daniela's doing particularly too much. But anyway, she's got some stuff to do. Because what she is going to do, first action, she's going to spend 3. 1, 2, 3. Going to keep the survival knife, get rid of the mechanic's wrench, and play in sledgehammer, which is a 2-handed weapon. But because she's got bandolier out, we can have a survival knife and a sledgehammer in play, which is good. So now she's ready for any monsters. That was her first action. Second action. Is going to be to draw a card. See what she gets. Another sledgehammer. I did shuffle them. But that does give us... We're all about fights. So she's got overpowers. She's got vicious blow and a sledgehammer. So in total there, she's got 8 fight to chuck in against tests, if only she ever comes across any enemies. And her third action, she's not going to draw a card, she's not going to do it, but she will gain a resource. So that is it for the investigation phase. Enemy phase, again, no enemies in play. Dark Aurora stays in play. It doesn't. This one doesn't go, I don't think. Let me just double check. Oh, the Mirage, sorry, actually. It's only once you take the last clue, you discard each non-weakness card in your hand, so that does actually stay in play. Clue on it. Yeah. So that's it for enemy phase. Going to upkeep phase, we gain our resource, or sorry, gain our actions back. We ready any cards, which is what that is. We gain a resource. Gains a resource. We draw a card for Monterey. He gets Lone Wolf. Daniela gets Machete. So she's all about the fight. We check her hand sizes. Daniela is at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So Daniela is fine. And Monterey 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Actually, should have done his. I'm going to do it because I've remembered it before the end of the round. He started one away, so I will draw another card for him. Leo DeLuca. Leo DeLuca. I know that's a bit cheeky, but I did remember it, so I'm having that. Yeah, okay. Okay. So that's it for the upkeep phase. We move into the Mythos phase. We put a Doom on the Doom. 2 of 5. 2 of 5. We then see what we get. So we also got to remember on the Rocky Crags, when a treachery is attached to Rocky Crags, it gains search. So first one for Monterey is going to be, it is a treachery attached to the nearest location without a copy of Through the Ice, has an additional cost for you to enter or leave attached location except by a scenario card effect. Test agility 2. If you fail, cancel the effects of the move, take 1 damage and 1 horror and discard Through the Ice. Okay, so that's going to go there, and we do know from this card here it does gain Surge. So another card is 0 visibility. Put 0 visibility into playing your threat area. As an additional cost for you to leave a location with a treachery card attached to it, you must spend 1 action. At the end of your turn, test agility 2. If you succeed, discard 0 visibility. Oh wow, that's a nice little cheeky one from Monterey. I'll just put that in his threat area there. Delightful. Delightful. And then we go on to the Drawing Mythos card, Daniela. Hey, she's got an enemy. She's got an enemy. Hunter, Forced, 2 fight, 2 health, 4 evade. Forced, when you defeat Skittering Nonsense, shuffle the top card of the Taliki deck into your deck without looking at it. If you cannot, Skittering Nonsense attacks you. Oh, okay. So that's going to come into play here. Okay. Investigation phase. So, what do we do? Monterey started to get a bit of an engine going now. So, first things first, it's got to be done. We'll spend 1 action and spend 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to bring out the man, the legend, Leo DeLuca, which gives us an additional turn. Got a specific marker for him. So that's our Leo DeLuca marker, which is cool. That was his first action. Second action is going to be to move into the frigid cave. First things first, we need to do through the ice. Oops. We'll do through the ice, we'll put them there for the time being. It's a test, an agility test of 2. I'm agility 5 normally. 5 normally. 6 with the hiking boots. So that's a 4 or better. So we'll stick at that. Oh, actually, hang on. What's the shroud value? That'd be 2. That's 5. That's 5. So I'm 5, 6 versus 2. We'll stick at that, I think. Stick at that. There we go. Minus 2. That takes it to 4 versus 6. So we're good. We managed to pass the test, so we actually do manage to make it through. Then through the ice. To there. As an additional cost, enter location. Investigators at your location must spend 2 clues per investigator as a group. So we'll spend 4 clues. 1, 2, 3, 4. Enter. We'll then flip it over, see what we've got there. Okay. So we flip this over in the frigid cave. So he gets 2 clues. 2 clues per investigator. So there's 4 on there. So as an action, you can add 1 frost token to the chaos bag in the supplies recovered section of the campaign log. Record mineral specimen. Group limit once per campaign. Do we do that? Do we do that? Do we want to add another frost token to the bag? Mineral specimen. We can't record a mineral specimen. I think I am. I think I'm going to do that. Right, so we'll get our pencil and we'll get our pain log. We will record. Whereabouts is it? Mineral specimen. So we've got spare parts, we've got miasmic crystals, and we've now got mineral specimen. These, I don't know how good these are going to be, I don't know how bad these are going to be. They better be bloody good for putting a frost token into the flipping bag. Right, get my LCG tokens out. Get my frost token. Put my campaign log back away. And then we'll put this into the chaos bag. Could be bad, could be good. We don't know. That's the beauty of this. It has got a shroud value of 4, that one. So that was an action. We've done that. That was his third action. And then his fourth Leo action. No, actually, no, it's not an action. We'll do the Lost Bit Expedition Act, which is a free action. At your location, investigators can spend 2 clues as a group. Draw the encounter card beneath the location. So he'll spend his 2 clues, final 2 clues. The reveal, this one up the top. Let's see what we get. Come on, Cookie. Come on, Cookie. No, not Cookie. Bloody evidence. You follow a set of footprints through the snow, hoping that they will lead you to a sign, any sign of your lost companions. Sadly, the evidence you discover is not the kind you were hoping to find. Where the prints end, you find an ice pick covered in freshly frozen blood. To your horror, a human eye lies nearby, staining the snow red. A shudder creeps up your spine. What on earth could compel somebody to do such a thing? Search the top 9 cards of your deck for each copy of Taliki and place each one you find at the bottom of the Taliki deck without resolving it. Okay, so the top 9 cards of my deck are going to be Pocket Telescope 2, Leo 3, Sneak Attack 3, Slip Away 4, Trusty Bullwhip 5, Think on Your Feet 6, Pocket Telescope 7, Eon Chart 8, Magnifying Glass 9. No. So we didn't find the kid. There was one in there, I'm sure. I think. Or did it come out? Oh no, it came out. It came out. What a plonker. It did come out. Why did I do that? Anyway. We all make mistakes. We all make mistakes. So that could go back there. That goes into the victory display. Victory 0. Okay. So really now we're going to have to head over to here. We can get some clues as we go. So that was his 4. No, he's got 1 action left. Ah, my apologies. I haven't got any actions left. 0 visibility would have come into play. As an additional cost for you to leave your location with a treachery attached to it, you must spend 1 action. So I will spend his final action to pay those 2 actions to leave to go there. Sorry, I missed that. So 0 visibility's come into play, and I'll pay 2 actions to go into there. That's the end of his turn. At the end of your turn, this is for 0 visibility. Test agility 2. If you succeed, discard 0 visibility. Well, I'm ability 6 versus 2. 6 versus 2. Don't need to chuck anything in against it, I don't think. 6 versus 2. 6 versus 2. And we get a -2. We succeed, which means 0 visibility. 0 visibility. That's now gone. Which if I had the old Leo DeLuca, I thought I'd have to have been doing a bit of hot tub time machine in there. Okay. Right. Daniela has got skittering nonsense to do. And she will just use her 1 action sledgehammer. She gets +1 fight and deals +1 damage to it. It's a fight of 2, so she's a fight of 6 at the moment. She's a fight of 6. Do I chuck an overpower in just to draw a card? think I'll save those. So 6 versus 2. 6 versus 2. -1. -2. We win. Skittering nonsense. Skittering nonsense is removed. But when I defeat it, shuffle the top card of the Taliki deck into your deck without looking at it. So that will go there. And then this is the top card of the Taliki deck. It's going to go into my deck. Shuffle. Okay. That was our first action. Kill the nonsense. Through the ice is a pain. She's going to attempt for her second action. She's going to attempt to move to the treacherous path. We need to do through the ice first of all. She's agility 2. It's agility 2. I've got nothing that I can do to resolve that. So it's a 2 versus 2. 2 versus 2, -1. So you fail by 1. If you fail, cancel the effects of the move, take 1 damage and 1 horror. So 1 damage and 1 horror. So first of all, the horror is going to go on to Dr. Kensley. 4. And the 1 damage is going to have to go on to Daniela, so she's down to 7. But that does discard through the ice, which is the main point of that. It does discard it. So we'll have to take the hit on that one. And then the third action is going to be to move into the treacherous path. I need to sort of come over here now. Or okay. That's it for the investigation phase. We move on to the enemy phase. There are no enemies. We then move to the upkeep phase. We get all of our actions back. We ready any cards that we've exhausted, none. We draw, we'll get a resource. We draw a card. Monterey is going to get elusive. Daniela is going to get weakness. Ooh, chronophobia. Put chronophobia into play into your threat area. At the end of your turn, take 1 direct horror. 2 actions to discard it. Well, I think we know what she's going to be doing her next action, next turn. She can't take any more direct horror. Check her hand size. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 for Monterey. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Daniela. So for the upkeep phase, we then move into the Mythos phase. Mythos phase, we place 1 Doom on the agenda with 3 and 5. Check, that's alright. We draw a card to make sure there's no cards that need to come out. We're all good. Oops, I need to go back to the back. Sorry. Okay, card from Monterey, going to be Polar Vortex. Your location, when you end your turn, at the attached location, we take 1 direct damage. Okay, hopefully be there for too long. That goes up there. And then we get a card for Daniela. Another skittering nonsense. Okay. Fair enough. Very straightforward Mythos phase. Getting a bit confused with buttons now. Investigation phase. Right. Well, let's go with Daniela first because her turn is going to be fairly straightforward. First of all, she's going to spend 2 actions to get rid of Chronophobia. Cannot have that kicking about, so that's 2 actions gone, but we get rid of that. Her third action is going to be to kill the skittering nonsense, hopefully. It's 2. I'm going to fight with the sledgehammer to give me +1 and +1 damage. So I'm at 5, 6, 7 with the sledgehammer. 5 normally. 5 normally. 6 for the sledgehammer. Yeah, 6 for the sledgehammer against 2. 6 versus 2. And we get -2. So we're all good. Kills the skittering nonsense. That's dead, but we do put another tick leaky into our deck without looking at it. So this is the Taliki deck. We'll take 1. Sorry, we'll take 1. Oh, 1 there into the deck. We'll shuffle our deck up. The Catweasel Cup. Put those in there, not that. Just tidy our discard pile up a little bit. That was pretty much it for Daniela. That doesn't kick in, just making sure that doesn't do anything, but I said we just take the last clue. So now we've got Monterey, who's got 4 actions. He's got 4 actions. Let's have a quick look and see what he can do. Got elusive. Got elusive we can play. So we need to get out of the frigid cave. It's got 4 clues in it though. We're going to need clues. Let's just have a quick look at what we need to do. So moving into the crash site doesn't cost us anything. Moving into the precarious ice sheet doesn't cost us anything. It costs us 2 clues to get into the icy wastes. It costs us 8 clues to get into the remnants of remnants of Lake's camp. And it costs us 4 clues to get into Icebreaker Landing. And it costs us 8 clues to get into the barrier camp. Ouch. You can guarantee that Cookie's going to be at one of these two. Four, 3 to here, 3 here. We know that one's not one. Okay. Two clues to move onto here, so we could snap all the clues off of here and then head across to Icy Wastes. There'll be clues here, there'll be clues here, there'll be clues here. I need 2 really to get to here to open this one up. So first action from Monterey is going to be to move out of the frigid cave to the rocky crags. That's his first action. He will tap field work. Get +2. So he's 6 versus 3. Like that. 6 versus 3. What always happens on the field work? Always happens on the field work. Okay, auto fail. That was his first action. His second action is to investigate. Second action is to investigate, and he will chuck an elusive in for an additional intellect signal. So we're 5 versus 3. 6 versus 3 with invest magnifying glass. 6 versus 3. 6 versus 3. -1. 6 versus 3. -1. 0. So we do get a clue. That was his second action. He gets a clue off the rocky crags. His third action just thinking, what I'm thinking about doing is playing some of these cards and then getting the last blue off of this one and then discarding my hand. That's what I'm thinking. His third action I'm at 5 versus 3 now. 5 versus 3. Do I need Lone Wolf? There's one more clue. Two lone wolves, a backstab, a lucky cigarette case, and an ethereal slip. That is Shroud 2. Sold it. In for a penny, in for a pound. Third action is to move. Fourth action is to investigate. And I'm at 5 versus 2. 5 versus 2. -1. 5 versus 2. -1. So -2. We do get the last clue off of there, which is the 2 clues. Might be a misplay on my behalf, but I'm only an amateur. So 2 clues off of there. Hang on a sec. I'll just get out of my chair. So just take those two off there for a second. Take treacherous path away. Polar Mirage says basically, after you take control of one or more clues at attached location, discard each non-weakness card from your hand and then discard Polar Mirage. So that's going to go. That's going back there like that. They are both there. Oh, Treacherous Path. After you reveal one or more frost tokens during a skill test at Treacherous Path, take 1 damage or horror for each token revealed. I did reveal frost token at Treacherous Path, so I've got to take 1 damage or 1 horror. Doesn't say direct, so we'll put 1 horror onto Leo DeLuca. It's not direct, so that can go there. And that's Polar Mirage done. And that was his last action. Discard all of my hands, unfortunately. Might be a mistake on my part, might be a misplay, but we'll see. So there we go, they're all discarded. It could be a misplay. Okay. Enemy phase. There aren't any enemies in play, so we can carry on with that. We go into the upkeep phase. We ready all of our cards that need readying, so field work gets readied. Oh, Monterey Jack. He is 2 locations away, so I do get to draw a card and gain a resource. I need to remember that. He gets another field work. So readied. Reset our actions. Draw a card, gain a resource. So Monterey gets a resource, and the other gets a resource. Monterey draws a card, and he gets sneak attack. Daniela gets dodge. Cancel an attack. Okay. It's the end of the round, so Polar Vortex goes. Nothing else in play I need to worry about. We're all good. We then move into the Mythos phase. We put Doom. We're at 4 with 5, so things are starting to get a little bit crafty now. We draw a card for each of our players. We'll start off with Monterey. who's going to get abandoned to madness. Attach to the nearest possessed enemy and place 1 doom on that enemy. If there are no possessed enemies in play, search the encounter deck and discard pile for a possessed enemy, draw it and attach abandoned to madness to it. Shuffle the encounter deck. Increase the difficulty to fight, to evade or parley with an attached enemy by 1. So let's have a quick look. We're going through the deck, see if we can find a possessed enemy. First one we come across is a Frenzied Explorer. We'll shuffle, let's say, shuffle the encounter deck. So it doesn't say shuffle the discard, shuffle the discard pile. Okay, hang on a second. Frenzied Explorer comes into play with 1 doom. It will attach to Monterey because he drew it. Comes in with 1 doom. Just got 2 doom on it. Because it comes into play with a doom and it says place a doom on it. That comes in with 2 doom. The way I read it. We've already gone past the check doom bit, so we're okay for that. So increased by 1. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. So that was Monterey's card, and then we're going to draw the card for Daniela. She's going to get Ancient Evils. Right, okay, so we know what happens with Ancient Evils. We place a doom on the doom, and it does cause it to move on because we are at 5 now. Great time to get Ancient Evils in play. So let's turn it over and see what it says. This says, tracks in the snow. As you journey through the glacial wilds, you stumble across a set of tracks in the snow leading farther from camp. You pause and investigate further. Were these tracks made by one of the missing team members or by something more monstrous? I've seen this before. Choose a face down encounter card beneath the location. Look at the other side of that card without resolving it. Then return its face down then return it face down beneath the location. Right, okay. Need to think about this. We know what this one is. We know that's not Cookie. These two are going to cost us 8 clues to get into to have a look. 8 clues each, 4 clues per investigator, so 8 and 8. This is 2 clues to look at, this is 4 clues to look at. So my thinking is, and obviously we've got 4 down here as well. We haven't looked. So 4, 4, 2 and 8. So it's going to be one of these 2. Now, at the moment, these 2 investigators are nearer to the barrier camp, because barrier camp, you come in to the Rocky Crags and you go to the barrier camp here, so it'll be 1, 2 to move in. To get into this one, we'd have to go 1, 2, 3, 4 to get in there. So by process of elimination, I'm going to look at this card here, which is an 8 cost to get in, but we're nearer it. So let's turn it over. It's not Cookie. But we do get to remove a cross token from the powers pack with this one. 8 to get in. So we know that's not Cookie. That's not Cookie. That's not Cookie. So one of these 4 remaining is Cookie. Okay. I think you're allowed to do it, or I'm going to do it, because it's difficult enough tracking stuff. So we know that's not Cookie, and we know that's not Cookie. I could be a bit cheeky cheating there, but when you're playing a game all by yourself, and you know it can be a bit confusing. So if I am mucking things up there, let me know. But I know those two are not Cookie. Okay. So this one can now go. And we're moving back. It says to the agenda, 6A, madness and death. The storm grows closer, and with it the looming sky. That damnable sound returns. It haunts you with its presence, worming its way into your mind. Is it the cause of this folly? This is madness. So it's 6 now. 6 doom on the agenda to move it. Okay. Okay. So that was it for the Mythos phase. Monterey got the Frenzied Explorer. Daniela draw the Ancient Evils. Okay. That's better. Okay. Moving on to the investigation phase. So we can head across. Right, first things first, let's get Monterey. Sorted. Needs to deal with his Frenzied Explorer, and it's currently a 3 fight, 3 evade. 3 fight, 3 evade. So we're going to spend our first action to try and evade it. Yeah, so 3 evade is what we're looking at. 5, 6 with hiking boots. We'll make it 7 with field work. So 5, 6, 7 versus 3. 7 versus 3. Oops, sorry. 7 versus 3, and we're going to get -4. Oh no. 7 versus 3, -4. We're still good. Takes us to 3, which means we do win. -4 there, I was thinking, bloody hell, glad I played field work. 7 versus 3, so just double check. 5, 6, 7, and it goes to 3. -4 is a 3, so a tie we win. So we do evade it. So we'll tap that. After you successfully evade it by 2 or more, we didn't. We did evade it, but not by 2 or more, so it doesn't. No doom comes off it. So it's evaded. Right. Can't see what I'm doing. I've evaded it, so it's tapped. That was his first action. His second action is to pay 2 to play sneak attack. Deal 2 damage to an exhausted enemy or location. Heals the Frenzied Explorer, taking the doom off it as well. When Frenzied Explorer is defeated, move each doom onto its location. So the 2 doom go onto Treacherous Path. That's annoying. to remember they're there. Two demons gone onto treacherous path. The frenzied explorer goes. That was his first action. That was his second action, sorry. Second action was to do the sneak attack. That goes as well. Third action, move. Fourth action, move into the precarious ice sheet. Shroud of 4, 2 clues per investigator. And it says when you draw a hazard treachery whilst at precarious ice sheet, add a 1 token to the chaos bag. Bloody hell. Cancel that card's effect and discard it. Oh, you go right. No, you can. Okay, that's fine. Okay, so that goes to there. And we have moved 1, 2 away. Draw a card and gain a resource. So Monty's going to get pink on your feet and a resource. Pink on your feet is fast. Play when an enemy would spawn at your location, immediately move to a connecting location. That still spawns. Okay. We're going to need at least 6 clues. What, 2, 4. Daniela needs to do some work here by getting some clues. But there'll be clues here, actually. We'll have to wait and see. Daniela, 1, 2, 3. Daniela's going to spend her 3 moving to the icy wastes. No, she's not. Sorry, forget that. No, didn't see it. Sorry, good. She's going to spend 2 to get to various ice sheet. Third action. No, it's not a good play. Draw a card. Draw a card and she gets the Taliki. Discard 1 card from random. 1 card at random from her deck, her card. Let's go with that one. Vicious Blow. Let's go. That goes to the bottom of the deck. Okay. That's it for the investigation phase. We then move on to the enemy phase. Just going to adjust that camera because from where I'm sitting it looks a bit wonky. There we go. Slightly better. Okay. That's the enemy phase. Upkeep phase. We ready any exhausted cards. We reset our actions. We're all good. We gain a resource. And draw a card. Monty is going to get Pocket Telescope. Exhaust Pocket Telescope, look at the revealed side of connecting unrevealed location. Investigate a revealed connecting location as if you were there. Not really beneficial at the moment, but handy to have. Daniela is going to get Lucky. Fast when you play when you fail a skill test, get +2 to the value of that skill test. Nice, always handy to have. That was it for the upkeep phase. We then move into the Mythos phase. We add Doom. We're at 3 of 6 because obviously there is 2 Doom on this location here, which that lovely frenzied possessed explorer dropped for us. We check. 3 of 6, we're good. We then move into the drawing of the delightful card phase. And we'll start off with Monty, who's going to get bloody Polar Mirage again. You know what that does. Attach to the nearest location with at least 1 clue in it without a copy of Polar Mirage. After you take control of the last 1 or more clues of the attached location, discard each non-weakness card. That's a bit frustrating, that one. Okay, let's just have a... I hope some of these later scenarios don't have as many locations. It's quite difficult when you're recording to try and get these all in one shot. So there we go. When you draw a hazard treachery card whilst at precarious, how is that? No, it's a terror. Hazard treachery. So we can't do that. We wouldn't have done it anyway. I'm not putting any more frost tokens in there. That's got 2 clues in it. That was Monty's card drawn. And then we're going to draw a card for Daniela. She's going to get Through the Ice, attached to the nearest location without Through the Ice on it. As an additional cost for you to enter or leave attached location except by scenario card test agility 2. If you fail, cancel the effects of the move, take 1 damage and 1 horror. Oh god. Right. Let's try and squeeze these in if we can. Precarious ice sheets really is precarious. 2 things on it. Maybe a bit of pain, so let's just move that down a little bit. Blimey. They're both there. Okay. Right. That is it for the Mythos phase. We go on to the investigation phase. Right, let's start off with Monty. Let's start off with Monty, who first of all is going to attempt to move to the icy wastes. To there. So we kick into, let's just put her there so we know what she's doing. As an additional cost for you to enter or leave attached location, test agility 2. Well, Monty is agility 6 in total. So he'll do a straight test. Try and pass that. Yeah. -1. And we get -3. So we're good. 5, 6 with hiking boots. It's a test of 2. So -3 is fine. We passed that. So I'm just going to go back in the bag. We don't discard through the ice because we haven't broken it. But Monty actually does manage to move into the icy wastes. Turn that over. As an additional cost to enter, you pay 2 clues as a group. So he'll pay his 2 clues. It's a shroud of 4. Sorry, a shroud of 2. You get 4 clues on it. Lovely. 4 clues on it. Treat the modifier of the first ice token revealed as -3 instead of -1. Oh my god. This has got to be Cookie. Please let it be Cookie. Okay, so that was his first action, was to move across. His second action, will tap field work, give us +2. Now, but guess what? He's going to have a go at getting the clue. So he is at 4, 5 with the magnifying glass against 2. 5 versus 2. I will chuck in. Oops. I will chuck in. Think on your feet to give me 6 versus 2. 6 versus 2. And we get -3. 6 versus 2, -3. We have passed. We get a clue. That was his second action. Oh no, he was 8. Field work was in play, so it was alright anyway. So I need to remember field work. So for his, that was his second action. His third action is going to be to investigate again. This time I'll chuck in the pocket telescope. Give me +1. So 4, 5, 6 with a magnifying glass. 6 versus 2 again. 6 versus 2. 0. Lovely. So we get the second clue. Second clue. Got. And then finally, for his Leo DeLuca action, his fourth action, we will do the lost estimate, the act thing. As investigators at your location, spend 1 clue as a call, 1 clue investigator, so 2 to look at the card. So we'll spend the 2 clues from Monty. Take the card across, and we'll see what it is. Please be Cookie. Please be Cookie. Oh, not Cookie. Right. You come across the evidence of one of your lost companions, abandoned and half buried in snow. Torn scraps from a heavy fur coat and a pair of goggles. Examining the goggles closely yields a terrifying discovery. A dark, sticky substance you cannot, for the life you've identified. Search the top 9 cards of your deck for each copy of Taliki in place. Place one you find on the bottom of your deck without resolving it. Add this story card to your victory display. I can't remember. Got any Taliki decks. I'll do the 9 cards and then I'll shuffle just in case. Can't remember. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay. So we'll shuffle those up. Okay. So that goes into our victory display. And that was his 4th action. These are the icy wastes. We need 4 clues. We need 4 clues. Daniela's just not cutting the mustard when it comes to clue getting in. She's all decked out, ready for killing stuff, but she's not really doing a lot else. What's she got? She got 2 overpowered, sledgehammer, a machete, a dodge. We're lucky. Not any of it helping to get clues. Ah, again, been reading this wrong. Typical gamer. So it says, spend 1 secret and exhaust Dr. Amy Kensler. Investigate. Investigate with a base skill of 5. If you succeed, look at the top card of any investigator's deck or encounter deck. You may discard that card. So the way I was reading it, so you investigate and then you only get to look at the card. It's not. I'm investigating, and if I then I'm successful, I get to look at the top card of any deck. So I've been such a plonker. With this game, but it's quite nice because it does help now. So you've probably been shouting at the screen the whole game, going, "Why are you using Dr. Amy Kensler?" Because I'm a bit of a plonker. That's why. Okay, so what we're going to do with Amy, sorry, not Amy. What we're going to do with Daniela is we're going to spend 1 action. She's going to move to the icy wastes, taking the test that she needs to take. So an agility of 2. She's agility 2. She hasn't got anything agility-wise that she can chuck in. Well, she's got a dodge. She'll chuck a dodge in to make her 3. 3 versus 2. 3 versus 2. +1. +1, so she makes it. So we succeeded, so we don't actually get rid of that icy thinking thing. That was her first action. Her second action is to investigate and tap Amy Kensler. Shift these along a bit so we can tap Amy. We'll consider her tap like that. So she's going to be investigating with a base skill of 5 versus 3. Sorry. 5 versus 2. So she's 3 up. 5 versus 2. And she gets it. +1. If you were attacked by an enemy round, use automatic succeed instead. So she's passed. +1. Thanks for falling apart. So she gets a clue. Oops, sorry. She gets a clue off Icy Wastes. Goes back in the bag. That was her second action. We need one more. There's 3 more clues. Got 3 more clues there. 3 more clues. Should have another go. So she's got a base of 1 versus 2. 1 versus 2. One versus 2. That's -2. I was thinking if I could have got a -1 there, I could have played lucky. So she has failed, and that means that we take the top card of the Tleaky deck and put it into our deck. Give those a shuffle. Worth a stab. It was worth a stab. That was a third action. That's the investigation phase done. Enemy phase, there aren't any enemies in play. It's good to move on. Going to the upkeep phase. You ready? Any cards? Ready any cards? We gain a resource. Draw a card. Monty gets Ethereal Slip. Daniela gets toe to toe. This attack deals +1 damage as normal and is automatically successful. As an additional cost to performing this attack, the chosen enemy makes the attack against you. Okay, that's it for the upkeep phase. Let's just check hand size. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 for Daniela, 1 for Monty. Go on to the Mythos phase. We put Doom. We're at 4 of 6 because of these two. Polar Mirage and the other one still stays in play. They don't go at the end of the turn. And then we draw a card. First one is for Monty. He gets a 0 visibility, puts it into play in your threat area. There's an additional cost for you to leave your location. You must spend 1 action. At the end of your turn, test agility 2. Okay, we'll go to his threat area. And then Daniela is going to get, ooh, a lost researcher. Okay, threat area. Oh, sorry. It says spawn at any location empty if able. Oh, this is a different one. Enders play with 1 Doom on it. When Lost Researcher is removed, defeated, move Doom to its location. Harley using Willpower or Intellect 3. If you succeed, take control of 1 Doom with Lost Researcher and flip it to its clue side. Then if there's no Doom, Lost Researcher discards it. Okay, so 1 empty space. So let's put in the precarious ice sheet. Comes into play with 1 Doom on it. No. That's it for the Mythos phase. We go on to the investigation phase. Okay. Let's start off with Monty. He's going to spend an action to investigate. 2 is the shroud value. I'm 4, 5. 1, 5. 2 versus 5. Try and take those odds. 2 versus 5. -2. Doesn't mean we fail, so that's good. 2 versus 5. Get the last clue. Icy Wastes. So that was his first action. He'll spend 2 actions. 2 actions to move from Icy Wastes to the precarious ice sheet. So he's just moved here. Oh no, don't, why have you stopped recording like that? Don't say that. Apologies for that. Sometimes this camera for some reason freezes. So Montrey's just used his 2 actions to move into the precarious ice sheet. He's got 1 action left, and he's going to attempt to parlay with the Lost Researcher, which is the one here. It's a parlay test for 3. He can use his agility or his intellect. His agility 5, 6. 6 versus 3. He will chuck in an ethereal slip. to make it 8 versus 3. 8 versus 3. Sorry, just realised the speakers were still on. I didn't want any double audio. So he's going parlay test of 3, and he is 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 versus 3. 8 versus 3. The cultist is a -2, which is fine, which means he passes. And we can remove a Doom, which takes this Doom off it, converts it to a clue. The lost researcher goes, because if there's no Doom on the researcher, it gets discarded. So he goes. So that's it for Monterey. Daniela is going to spend an action to move back to the precarious wastes. To enter it, I'm going to take an agility test of 2. She's agility 2. She's got nothing. Oh, she's got toe to toe, which she can chuck in. So we'll chuck in a toe to toe. Make her 3 versus 2. 3 versus 2. And she's going to get a -1. Well, that's -3, I think. Oh, no. Let me just check. No, it's over here. That's -1. Going to get 2. I think, let me just check the campaign book. I think there's some stuff happens when you draw more than 1. Bear with me. Try and get back to the front page. Let's see. Back to the base tokens. It's an automatic failure. If one is -1, if another token is revealed during the same test, immediately end the reveal chaos token step of the skill test and resolve the test as an automatic failure. So, a few things happen now, those go back into the bag. Daniela moves back to the Odyssey Wastes. Take 1 damage and 1 horror, and then discard through the ice. Okay, so she's going to take 1 damage and 1 horror. 1 horror is going to go on Amy Kensler. And 1 damage is going to go on to Daniela. So she's down to 6. So that's that done. But then we do discard through the ice. That goes over there. That stays there like that. So that was our first action. The second action now is to move to the precarious ice sheets. She doesn't want to get rid of her hand, so she's not going to try and get a clue. But Monty can do that because he's got nothing in his hand. So her third and final action is to draw a card. She's going to get another lucky. That's okay. Getting paranoid about the camera now. Don't want it to freeze again. So that's it for the investigation phase. We move on to the enemy phase. At the end of our turn, we discard 0 visibility. That goes. There's no other monsters in play. We move on to the upkeep phase. Reset any action. Oh, sorry. Reset our actions. We gain a resource. We draw a card. Monty is going to draw pocket telescope. Daniela is going to draw another machete. Check our hand size. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 for Daniela. 1 for Monty. That's all good. We then move on to the Mythos phase. We place a Doom on the agenda. We're at 5 of 6. And then we draw a card. Please be kind to us, deck. Please be kind to us. So Monty is going to draw his card and he's going to get Whiteout. Attached to the location, we get -1 across our skills. Do that in a second. And then we're going to draw a card for Daniela, who's going to get Periophobia. Test will shelter value 2. So Chestnut will, she's will 4. Against 2, 4 against 2. She got anything she can chuck in? No, it's all hitty stuff, apart from a couple of luckies. So 4 against 2. Gonna get a 0. So she passes. Actually, that's quite nice of you, Boss Bag. That is quite nice of you. And encounter deck. So let's just put the whiteout cards. So much mucking about here. So much mucking about. So whiteout's going to go there. Polar Mirage. Okay. Right. That's it for the Mythos phase. We go into the investigation phase. Monty's going to go and try and get these last couple of clues. Six against 4. 6 against 4. I will, as a free action, take a supply of Roland or rolled, tap him. Choose a treachery attached to my location. Treat the text box as if it were blank until the end of the turn. I'll choose the one that minuses all the skills. So I am at 5. I'll chuck in pocket telescope to make it 6 versus 4. 6 versus 4. 6 versus 4. -1. We get the token. Get the clue. So that's his first action. Now, it does say after you discover or take control of one or more clues at attached location, discard each non-weakness card from your hand to discard Polar Mirage. I've got nothing to discard from my hand because I haven't got anything in it, but I am going to still discard Polar Mirage. Place to go when you do that. That was his first action. His second action is to move Icy Wastes. Move there to Icy Wastes. His third action is to move back to the Precarious Ice Sheet and tap Field Work. And his fourth action is to investigate. So he is now 4, 5, 6, 7 from Field Work, 7 against 4. 7 against 4. 7 against 4, and we get -1. 7 against 4, -1, -5. I think that's it for his actions. Okay, Daniela. Daniela is going to spend as her first action Secret from Dr. Amy Kensler. Tap her. To investigate to a base level of 5. Base level of 5 against 4. Oh, it's not good. I've got a lucky. 5 against 4. Five against 4. Five against 4. 0. We win it. We get it. 5 against 4. Should get the clue. We're at -1, but we've still got a 0. So it's 4. It's actually 4 against 4. It was 4 against 4. But we are lucky anyway, so we got it. We did get it. That was her first action. A second action is to move to the Icy Wastes. And the third action is going to be to draw a card. Another guard dog. Very handy. Very handy. Okay, that's it for the investigation phase. We go on to the enemy phase. There are no enemies in play. We move on to the upkeep phase. Get all of our actions back. We ready our cards. We ready our cards. We get a resource. Draw a card. Monty's going to get think on your feet. Daniela's going to get another dodge. Check her hand size. Monty's only got one. Daniela's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So let's get rid of a machete. Yeah, we'll get rid of a machete. We're all good. So we're down to 8. That's the upkeep phase over and done with. We go on to the Mythos phase. We place a Doom. So we go to 4, 5, 6. So we do trigger the Doom. Getting serious now. This is called Force to Reveal, Force to Retreat. As the night ends, the storm arrives at its full ferocity. Raging icy winds and dense snowfall make your task impossible. You'll never find the remaining team members in these conditions, and even if you did. A hard lump of guilt and despair forms in your throat. There's no way that you would survive in the storm, not without supplies or shelter. That you are forced to choose between your life and theirs is a burden you will surely carry for the rest of your life, and you'll be lucky if it's more than a couple of days. Each remaining investigator is defeated and suffers 1 mental trauma. Okay. Okay, fair enough. That's the game. Read Resolution 1. Read Resolution 1. Okay. Resolution 1. It is clear that something compelled your teammates to venture away from the safety of your camp. Something alien and mysterious. Something that defies your understanding of Antarctica. None of those who wandered off remembered why they did so or what they were doing. It is almost as if their memories were wiped clean, or perhaps their consciousness was supplanted by another. In any event, they seem to have recovered. You mourn those you've lost and prepare for the day ahead. Rest or no rest, you only had one chance to survive. You only had one chance if you are to survive. I did my best, Cookie. I did my best, buddy. Each investigator earns experience equal to the victory X value of each card in the victory display. 0, because they're all victory zeros. In the expedition section of the campaign log, record the amount of damage and horror on each partner asset in play. Okay, so Roland hasn't got any, but Dr. Amelia Kenda has got 1 damage and 2 horror. Okay, we've done that. Find each enemy in the victory display whose title matches a character who is not crossed off in the expedition section of the campaign log. Those characters have been rescued or cross off MIA next to each of the characters' names. Each missing team member who has not found surely could not survive the night. In the expedition team section of the campaign log, cross off the name of each character who is still marked MIA. So poor old Cookie, you are gone, buddy. Proceed to checkpoint 2, the attack. Do not clean up the game yet. Okay. Checkpoint 2, the attack. The attack 1. You barely have time to rest before the sound of something erupting out of the ground nearby shakes you to your core. Massive tremors follow, sending cracks through the ice all around you. Then that noise, that insidious piping, tekaliki, tekaliki. Whatever those creatures you encountered earlier were, you are sure they came from under the ice, breaking through or seeping to reach the surface. They must somehow survive. They must somehow live deep under the glacial crust of Antarctica. These quakes can only mean one thing. Your imagination stirs with the visions of these monsters bursting forth all round you, creeping into your eyes, mouth and controlling you. It's clear you're not safe here any longer. The investigators must decide, choose one. One for your lives. You will skip the next part of the scenario, proceed to the attack 2. Stand and fight. You will play the next part of the scenario, skip to attack 3 if you wish to do so immediately, or attack 4 if you wish to break and proceed the next time you play. Well, I'm going to keep things set up, so I'm going to choose, and I am going to stand and fight. Why wouldn't I stand and fight? I'm standing and fighting. Attack 3. So attack 3, you've decided to fight off the attacking creatures. Do not remove any locations from play. All tokens on these locations are removed and all cards at these locations are discarded as normal. Reset each investigator's deck and the encounter deck and proceed to Ice and Death Part 3. So there we go. We're going to move on to that, but I'm going to obviously call it at this point. Yeah, another good scenario. That's just a bit of a pity we didn't manage to save poor old Cookie, but that's the rub when it comes to all things mythos and Lovecraftian. I hope you've enjoyed it. I'm really enjoying it, continuing to enjoy it. I did feel Daniela didn't really do too much, but then I could be being a bit harsh on her. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you on the very next episode. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe and like the video. I'm really enjoying putting them together. I hope you're enjoying them too. The views are increasing, which is really good. So obviously, the Edge of the Earth campaign and Arkham Horror is a good thing for the channel, and I can continue to play more. Thanks very much for watching. Take care, and I'll see you on the next episode.